Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your salary can no longer buy breakfast. Not rent, not fuel, not even a loaf of bread. Now imagine this happening in a country floating on oceans of oil. A country so rich in natural resources that economists once called it the Saudi Arabia of South America. A country with paradise beaches, giant jungles, magical mountains, lightning storms visible from space, and the tallest waterfall on earth. Welcome to Venezuela. A nation where gasoline once became cheaper than water, but money itself became almost worthless. This is not fiction, this is not dystopian cinema, this is real life. And somehow, despite everything, people still laugh here, they still dance, they still fall in love, and maybe that's the strangest part of all. Because Venezuela is not just a story about collapse, it's a story about survival, about absurdity, about hope refusing to die, and about how one of the richest nations on earth became one of the most heartbreaking paradoxes in modern history. So sit back, because this story begins in a country where nature created heaven, and politics somehow turned it into chaos. If aliens landed on Earth and someone showed them Venezuela on paper, they'd probably assume it was the most successful country in the world. Largest oil reserves on the planet, massive gold deposits, natural gas, fertile land, tropical beaches, rainforests exploding with wildlife, and landscapes so surreal they look computer generated. Venezuela doesn't look like a struggling country, it looks like a deleted scene from Avatar. The country is home to Angel Falls, the tallest waterfall on Earth, so tall that the water literally evaporates into mist before it reaches the ground. Then there's Mount Roraima, a giant tabletop mountain rising through clouds like an ancient alien kingdom. Scientists say some of these rock formations are nearly 2 billion years old. 2 billion. That mountain is older than dinosaurs, older than trees, older than basically every bad political decision humanity has ever made, which is saying something. But beneath all this beauty was something even more valuable: oil, an unimaginable amount of it. For decades, Venezuela became filthy rich selling petroleum to the world. Money flooded in, skyscrapers rose, luxury arrived, people believed the future would last forever. And honestly, it felt like it might. There's a dangerous thing that happens when a country suddenly becomes rich. It starts believing the money can never stop. That's exactly what happened here. Oil prices exploded. The government earned billions, programs expanded, subsidies multiplied, the state paid for almost everything. At one point, gasoline in Venezuela became so cheap that filling an entire car tank cost less than a snack. Tourists were shocked. Locals joked that water was more expensive than fuel, which sounds hilarious until the joke stops being funny, because the entire economy slowly became dependent on one thing: oil. Only oil. And when your entire house stands on one pillar, you better pray that pillar never cracks. Then it did. Oil prices crashed, and suddenly Venezuela discovered a terrifying reality. The country had built wealth, but not stability. The illusion began collapsing. Fast? Now here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Imagine carrying a backpack full of cash and still not being able to afford groceries. That actually happened in Venezuela. People needed stacks of bills just to buy basic food. At one point, prices changed so fast that restaurants stopped printing menus. There was no point. A coffee could cost one price in the morning and another by evening. Savings disappeared overnight. Entire lifetimes of work evaporated. And the craziest part, the money still looked normal. The bills were colorful, the numbers were real, but their value was dying by the hour. This is hyperinflation, the economic version of watching your house burn in slow motion. Here's the simplest way to understand it. If a country keeps printing money without increasing actual production, money itself becomes less valuable. Too much cash, too few goods, prices explode, and eventually the currency becomes more symbolic than useful. In Venezuela, this reached terrifying levels. People literally weighed money instead of counting it. Some stores preferred dollars, others accepted food swaps, others accepted absolutely anything except the national currency. Imagine working an entire month and realizing your paycheck can't even buy chicken. That became normal. Not rare, normal. And yet, this is where Venezuela becomes extraordinary. Because society did not simply collapse, people adapted. Parents turned living rooms into bakeries. Teenagers sold snacks online using unstable internet. Families survived through remittances sent from relatives abroad. Neighbors shared medicine. Communities exchanged food. People learned to repair old shoes instead of buying new ones. Generators became gold. Candles became routine. Blackouts became part of life. Imagine planning your day not around time, but around electricity. Quick, charge the phones. Power's back. That sentence became normal in many neighborhoods. Hospitals struggled. Water systems failed. Internet connections vanished for hours, and somehow life continued. There's a strange resilience in Venezuelans, a dark humor, a sarcastic optimism. When reality becomes absurd enough, people either break or they learn to laugh at disaster itself. and Venezuelans became masters of that survival instinct. Every national tragedy eventually arrives at politics, and Venezuela's story is no exception. For years, the country was dominated by one giant personality, Hugo Chavez. Loved by some, hated by others, ignored by absolutely nobody. He promised revolution, equality, a better future for ordinary people. And for a while, many Venezuelans genuinely believed him. Oil money allowed huge public spending. The poor finally felt visible. But behind the scenes, dangerous cracks were forming. The economy became increasingly fragile, dependency deepened, institutions weakened. Then Chavez died, and suddenly the country entered uncertainty. His successor? Nicolas Maduro, a former bus driver. Yes, an actual bus driver, which sounds like the setup to a Netflix political satire. But it was real. Maduro rose from union activism into the presidency during one of the worst economic moments imaginable. And that's when things spiraled further. Inflation exploded, migration accelerated, political tensions intensified, and millions began leaving the country. Not thousands, millions. Families split apart. Parents said goodbye to children at airports without knowing when they'd reunite. Young professionals fled, doctors fled, engineers fled, students fled. One of the largest migrations in modern Latin American history had begun. Imagine your country slowly disappearing one family at a time. That became Venezuela's reality. Today, millions of Venezuelans live abroad, in Colombia, Peru, Chile, the United States, Spain, practically everywhere. And every Venezuelan family seems to have someone missing. A brother overseas, a daughter in another country, a cousin sending money home. Video calls replaced family dinners. WhatsApp became emotional survival. Entire generations grew up between borders. And yet, even abroad, Venezuelans carried something powerful: their identity, their humor, their music, their food, their stubborn refusal to completely lose hope. Because despite everything, most still dream of returning home someday. Now here's the contradiction nobody can ignore. Venezuela is breathtakingly beautiful. Not metaphorically, literally. This country contains places that feel unreal. The Catatumbo lightning storms illuminate skies for hundreds of nights a year. NASA once identified the region as one of Earth's most intense lightning zones. Imagine a sky constantly flashing blue and white, like nature installed its own nightclub. Then there's the Amazon, dense jungle, pink river dolphins, anacondas, jaguar territory, and rivers where locals warn you not to urinate. Yes, seriously, because of a legendary parasitic fish feared across the Amazon region. Only Venezuela could somehow combine economic collapse with horror movie fish and still somehow remain beautiful. That's the strange magic of this country. Even its danger feels cinematic. Now let's talk about the tallest waterfall on Earth. Angel Falls, almost 1 kilometer high. Its story sounds fictional. In the 1930 seconds, an American pilot named Jimmy Angel flew over Venezuela searching for gold. Not adventure, not science, gold. Because humans have always been professionally addicted to shiny things. While flying above giant jungle plateaus called tepuis, he saw something impossible. A waterfall falling from the clouds themselves. Obsessed, he attempted to land nearby. Bad idea. The plane got trapped. He and his companions spent days stranded in remote wilderness before escaping. The gold? Never found. But his accidental discovery produced the world with one of nature's greatest wonders. Ironically, the man searching for treasure discovered something far more valuable: beauty. That's the question hanging over everything. Can Venezuela rise again? Nobody truly knows. History has seen collapsed nations rebuild before. But recovery requires more than resources. It requires trust, institutions, stability, opportunity, and perhaps most importantly, time. Because rebuilding a currency is hard. Rebuilding a society is harder. And rebuilding hope? That may be hardest of all. But here's what outsiders often misunderstand. Venezuela is not just a crisis. It is not just inflation graphs and political headlines. It is millions of human beings trying to continue living normal lives inside abnormal conditions. Parents raising children, couples falling in love, friends making jokes during blackouts, street vendors smiling despite exhaustion, people surviving realities most of the world can barely imagine. And somehow, despite all the darkness, Venezuela still feels alive. Maybe that is the real story here. Not oil, not inflation, not politics, but resilience. Because Venezuela should have disappeared emotionally long ago, yet it didn't. The country still sings, still dreams, still hopes. Nature still explodes with beauty. Lightning still dances across the skies. Angel Falls still crashes from ancient mountains. Children still laugh in the streets. And millions who left still whisper the same sentence: one day I'll come back. Venezuela is chaotic, painful, absurd, magnificent, A paradise wounded by history, a rich nation where money became worthless, and perhaps one of the clearest reminders on earth that a country is never just its economy. A country is its people, and the people of Venezuela are still standing.